بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. This is the first lecture I have for this community in the month of Ramadan, so I would like to start with congratulating my dear brothers and sisters for the arrival of the month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the blessing to benefit the most from the all whose mercy and compassion, blessings that Allah provides to His servants in this holy month. The month of Ramadan is known for an opportunity for spiritual growth, for self-building, for embracing on our spiritual journey like no other months. So I thought in our thematic discussion on the letter 31st of Nahjul Balagha to also focus on the same topic. So looking at those pieces of advice of Imam Ali alayhi salam that pertain to spiritual growth, that pertain to self-building. So I grouped those pieces of advice to inshallah benefit from those instructions in our spiritual endeavor during this holy month and the divine feast provided to us for us. As it is discussed before, when we are talking about a spiritual journey similar to a material journey, a material trip, the preliminary step is to get the knowledge, to know the destination, to know the path, to know the dangers, to know what type of vehicle we are going to take, so on and so forth. That's what we do when we are going to go on a trip, for example, to a certain city, to a certain destination. Similarly, when it comes to the spiritual journey, the first step is to have this picture, to have the map, to know the destination, to know the dangers, to know those struggles that we are going to face. And then it comes to the moral characteristics that we are expected to work on them. We are expected to embrace them, to incorporate those moral attributes, and to make sure that we can follow the examples provided by Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, by the Prophet, peace be upon him, in our spiritual journey. So my talk is divided in different subjects. So first it's about the knowledge, which is the preliminary step before embarking on a spiritual journey. Then moral characteristics that Imam Ali salam emphasized in his letter to his son, that these are the characteristics that you need to ensure that you have them. And also a piece of advice about habits that are helping us in our spiritual growth. Starting with the topic about the knowledge, Imam alayhi salam highlights to his son, reminds him that it's very important before starting a journey, before starting any type of endeavor, to acknowledge the limit of our knowledge, to be aware, to be mindful that we are limited being with limited amount of knowledge. So Imam alayhi salam explains to his son that this world, if it is running as you see it today, this is because of those rules, those blessings, those challenges, those punishments, rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established to make the world running in a proper way. However, in some cases, you may feel puzzled, not seeing why something is happening, why the thing is this way and not the other way around, not being able to make sense of what happens around the world. And then Imam alayhi salam says, if that's the case, the best way to address this question is to acknowledge and to remind yourself that you are ignorant about many of the reasons, many of the explanations that are needed to understand this matter. Imam alayhi salam says, فَإِنْ أَشْكَلَ عَلَيْكَ شَيْءٌ مِّنْ ذَلِكَ فَاحْمِلْهُ عَلَى جَهَالَتِكَ. First of all, just because I don't understand doesn't mean that something is wrong. But most probably it's because my knowledge is limited. فَإِنَّكَ أَوَّلَ مَا خُلِقْتَ جَاهِلًا. Because when you were born, Imam alayhi salam says, you were born and you didn't have any knowledge. وما أكثر ما تجهل من الأمر ويتحير فيه رأيك ويضل فيه بصرك ثم تبصره بعد ذلك. And it happens a lot that there is something that you don't know about. Sometimes you even get confused, not being able to make a decision. Sometimes you lose the way, but later on you end up understanding what was missing. You end up finding the knowledge. So Imam alayhi salam highlights here first that it is important to know that, to acknowledge that we are ignorant of many significant matters, especially when it comes to a spiritual journey, because we have much limited instruments to find out about something that is unseen, is ghaib. So first, to acknowledge and to know that we need instructions, we need help, we need proper advice to embark on this journey. And Imam alayhi salam remind us that sometimes وَرُبَّ سَاعٍ فِيمَا يَضُرُّهُ, sometimes you may find people, they are rushing, striving for something that they think it is in their advantage. However, it is the opposite. It is to their disadvantage. It's going to hurt them eventually at the end. It's again, it's because there are many things that they don't know. And in another expression, Imam alayhi salam emphasizes رُبَّمَا كَانَ الدَّوَاءُ دَاءً وَالدَّاءُ دَوَاءً. Something that it is possible that sometimes something that you feel and you think is cure, this is actually the illness. And what you may understand it, consider it to be the illness, the sickness, something hurts you, it may turn out to be the cure for you. So do not be much, do not trust much to your knowledge, because you are limited and your knowledge is limited. So if that's the case, Imam Ali says when it comes to spiritual journey, when it comes to benefiting from religion, the divine guidance, which is supposed to help us in embarking our spiritual journey, it's very important to gain the deep knowledge, not just to be content with the surface, rather to go deeper, try to understand the wisdom behind those instructions that we find in our faith, those instructions that we encounter in Quran, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says so and so. What are the wisdom behind them? وَالتَّفَقَّهْ فِي الدِّينِ. Imam Ali salam instruct us not just to ta'allam, not just to know, not just to learn. Rather تفقه. تفقه. Fiqh here is not jurisprudence. Fiqh here means deep knowledge. Gain deep knowledge about your faith. You must, before embarking on your journey, you must be sure that you understand what matters more, what matters less. What are the pitfalls? What are the most important characteristics of moral endeavor in the path of your spiritual perfection? And when it is the matter of understanding better, matter of deep learning about faith, it is matter of thinking about it, reflecting upon it. It is something that many of us neglect. We just see a hadith, just see instructions from certain scholars. Some of us may just blindly follow without reflecting why the Imam asked us to do so, why Quran says so, why that scholar give us this specific instruction. Even for the ones who are taking the position of teaching religion, the scholars, not everyone is deep enough. Some may more be interested in giving lectures than reflecting upon those teaching that they are delivering in their lectures. This is again one of the advices of Ali alayhi salam, man akthara ahjar wa man tafakkara absar. When you talk so much, when you just, if your focus is just on showing your knowledge, you go wrong eventually. But وَمَنْ تَفَكَّرَ أَبْصَرَ. However, if your focus would be on reflecting on what you know, trying to deepen your knowledge, that's when you find insight. That's when you better understand the faith. So to put it in a practical way, if we are reciting Quran in the month of Ramadan, instead of being committed to finish, for example, that amount of pages in 1 hour, more or less, why not focus more on reflecting on those verses? Maybe 3 pages, maybe 2 pages, but reflecting, thinking about them. Maybe in some cases, looking at tafsir, the exegesis, by later Allama Tabatabai and the others, those rich literature that we have about Quranic verses. So again, in our spiritual journey, the most important thing, the preliminary requirement is to have knowledge, and not just any kind of knowledge, a deep knowledge about our faith, which requires reflection, requires thought. And we should also be aware, as I mentioned before, that since we are limited in our knowledge, we need the help of the others to benefit from the experience and the knowledge of the others. That's why we, for example, benefit from the Nahjul Balagha. We try to benefit from Sa'if al-Sajjadiyya. We try to benefit from the hadiths that reported from our Imams, to benefit from their knowledge, from the scholars who explain them, help us to better relate to those teachings. And it's why Imam Ali salam, maybe so one of the way that we can understand it. And that Imam Ali salam says, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْإِعْجَابَ ضِدُّ الصَّوَابِ وَآفَةُ الْأَلْبَابِ. Imam says, be aware that self-righteousness is what deviates the path, what goes against the right path, goes against the right decision. ضد الصواب وآفة الألباب. And this is the flaw of the intellectuals, to be self-righteous, to think that what I think, this is the truth. This is the truth. I'm the one who understands the faith, and whoever think otherwise, they are the ones making mistakes. Imam instructs and advises for humility and to not be stubborn, to listen to the others. الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. This is the verse of Quran. The ones who are open to listening to the others, the advices provided by the others, and pick the best of those pieces of advice to follow. And this is why the Imam Ali says, وَإِيَّاكَ أَن تَجْمَحَ بِكَ مَقِيَّةُ اللَّجَاجِ. And be mindful and do not let the horse of stubbornness takes you astray. You lose the path because you are stubborn to the extent that you are not open to benefit from the advice, from the other people's pieces of advice that could help you on your spiritual journey. And then Imam alayhi salam does not neglect to highlight that the knowledge is just the preliminary step. The knowledge, if not put to practice, it has no benefit. It's even a burden, because the one who knows and doesn't act would be more responsible than the one he didn't know to act upon. So Imam alayhi salam says, وَتَفَحَّمْ وَصِيَّتِي وَلَا تَضَحَبْ عَنَهَا صَفْحًا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الْقَوْلِ مَا نَفَعَ. The best of the words are the ones that benefit you. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا خَيْرَ فِي عِلْمٍ لَا يَنْفَعُ. And be aware, be mindful that the knowledge that does not benefit in practice, it has no value. So Imam alayhi salam emphasizes the importance of getting knowledge, the importance of reflection on faith and getting deeper and deeper in understanding the faith. But he also emphasizes that this knowledge will not benefit unless it has been put into practice. Then Imam alayhi salam lists some of the moral characteristics that we need to embody if we want to be able to find the best way for a spiritual growth. He talks about tawakkul, reliance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam, in different excerpts of this letter, he highlights this matter. For example, Imam alayhi salam says, لَيْسَ كُلُّ مَنْ رَمَى أَصَابَ. It's not that whoever targets something will reach it. وَرُبَّمَا أَخْطَأَ الْبَصِيرُ قَصْدَهُ وَأَصَابَ الْأَعْمَى رُشْدَهُ. Sometimes the one who thinks he is the most insightful, he missed the target, he missed the right path. But sometimes the one we consider it to be blind, he finds the truth, he finds growth. And then Imam Ali Salam concludes. So if that's the case, that it could be the time that although I have knowledge, I think that I know everything, but I may go wrong. Not everything that I strive for I will find. If that's the case, وأخلص في المسألة لربك فإن بيده العطاء والحرمان. So ask for your Lord with pure intention. Purify your heart first and ask your Lord to help you. Because no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much you try, there is always this possibility that you may go wrong. You may miss the goal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one. فَإِنَّ بِيَدِهِ الْعَطَاءُ وَالْحِرْمَانُ. He is the one who gives. He is the one who takes. To rely on your Lord. Do your best. Gain knowledge. Try your best. However, do not forget, do not neglect the fact that He is the one who guides above everything. وَأَكْثَرَ الْإِسْتِخَارَةِ, another expression. Ask, increase your request for Allah to give you khair. Istikhara here means asking for khair, asking for blessing, asking for the good outcome for our deeds. So ask Allah, rely on Him. He is the one who is going to guide you. And then Imam Ali Salam reminds us that being moral and a spiritual journey, as we had the discussion also when we discussed the sermon of Sha'ban about the month of Ramadan, and the reason for which you see that the Prophet, peace be upon him, prioritizes social obligations over individual obligations, prioritizes what pertain to man-man relationship, which shows the overall perspective of Islam, which is much more concerned about society and one's role in society and one's responsibility towards the society. You see, Ali alayhi salam also highlights this point. So first, by highlighting what I discussed before as the golden rule of morality, which is not only in Islam, in many other faiths, you find this rule that Imam Ali Salam highlights. فأحبب لغيرك ما تحب لنفسك واكره له ما تكرهه لها. Love for the others what you love for yourself, and dislike for the others what you dislike for yourself. So be considerate. Put yourself in the shoes of the others before walking, before judging the way they walk. So it's very important. So in the spiritual journey that we are going to embark, it is imperative, it is crucial, essential to be mindful of the others, the way that we treat the others, and to always to be remembered of the golden rule that Imam Ali Salam mentions. Treat others the same way that you like to be treated. And Imam Ali Salam also highlights, avoid practicing injustice towards the others. وَلَا تَظْلِمْ كَمَا لَا تُحِبَّ أَن تُظْلَمْ. Don't be unjust towards the others the same way that you don't like to be subject to injustice. And Imam Ali Salam emphasizes further that the worst type of injustice is the kind of injustice that is enforced on the powerless people, the weak people. وَالظُّلْمُ الضَّعِيفِ أَفْحَشُ الظُّلْمِ. This is the worst type of injustice for a powerful person, a powerful entity, a powerful government, powerful state to subject people to inhuman injustice, subject people to tyranny. Imam says that's the worst type of injustice. Then Imam alayhi salam also, when it comes to matter of the moral characteristics, also mentions that when interacting with others, you must maintain integrity and be grateful when people they help you, while also not be someone bowing down to the others to get what you need. It's very interesting advice that Imam alayhi salam says, ما أقبح الخضوع عند الحاجة والجفاء عند الغناء. How despicable it is for someone to bow down when one is in need and to be ignorant and to be ungrateful when one's need is satisfied. So first of all, it means that do not bow to anyone beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not bow to anyone in hope to get something from them. Maintain your integrity. Maintain your nobility. And if someone helps you, can be your Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or his creatures, if they are helping you. If you are out of your desperate situation because someone helped you, then do not be ungrateful. Remember the Lord who helped you. Remember the people who are as the mediums who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed, that they are the ones who helped you. Then Imam alayhi salam also highlights an important matter when it comes to spiritual perfection to take into account. And that is to not be content with what we achieved so far in our spiritual journey. To say, I'm performing my prayers, I'm doing my fasting, I pay my religious duties, I, for example, do this religious obligation, do that. So I already did what I'm expected to do. This is the beginning of the downfall, because that's when we are feeling self-righteous. That's when we are feeling no need of looking at our flaws, trying to address them. So Imam alayhi salam mentions here that it's very important. It's very imperative to understand that واعلم أن الإعجاب ضد الصواب وآفة الألباب فاسع في كدحك. So I mentioned this phrase before, but the other way of understanding it, Imam al-Islam said, be aware that being self-righteous, that being content and just proud of what you achieved and neglecting the way so far that still you have to go, neglecting the remaining of the path, neglecting that the fact that we as human beings, we have such capacity of spiritual perfection that it can be only realized by looking at the examples of the Prophet and the Imams. We can only stop if we get close enough to them. And I don't think anyone can claim that. So Imam Ali says, don't be someone who thinks that he already achieved what he likes, what he has to do. It is the shortcoming of the intellectuals. فَاسْأَ فِي كَدْحِكَ. Rather, increase your efforts. If you are successful so far in achieving certain milestones, it should encourage you to do more and more and not to stop here. So the month of Ramadan, this is somehow a kind of trial for us, a kind of test, divine test. Can we take our spirituality to the next level? Or would I be the same person that I was before Ramadan? So this is what Imam Ali highlights. فَاسْأَ فِي كَدْحِكَ. Do not stop. Continue on your path. This is about spiritual gains, spiritual growth. But when it comes to material gains, the advice goes to the opposite. Imam Ali highlights, do not be so ambitious, wishful when it comes to material gains. Confine your temptations. وَالْحَوَى شَرِيكُ الْعَمَى. Imam says, the temptations leads to blindness. Someone who is subjected to his temptations, his judgment would be clouded. He would not be able to think properly. So that's why Imam says sharikul ama is like being blind, not being able to see properly, making wrong decisions. And the way to control ourselves, Imam Ali says, is to be content. Do not have those far away wishes when it comes to material prosperity. So Imam Ali says, فَخَفِّضْ فِي الطَّلَبِ وَأَجْمِلْ فِي الْمُكْتَسَبِ. Imam Ali says, pack lightly in your... So this material life is just a temporary journey that you get towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards your eternal life. So pack lightly. Do not put much burden on your back. Pack lightly. وَأَجْمِلْ فِي الْمُكْتَسَبِ. Just take what you need, what is necessary, what suffice to go on your journey. Do not get too much. Do not add too much burden, which you cannot respond for it later on. وإياك أن توجف بك مطايا التماء فتوردك مناهل الحلكة. Imam warns us, be aware. Do not let your greed takes you to the wrong path, to the destruction of your soul, al-halakah. And there are many similar phrases in the letter 31st that highlights the emphasis that Imam alayhi salam puts on this teaching. To be content with what you have. وحفظ ما في يديك أحب إلي من طلب ما في يد غيرك. To protect what you have, to be content with what you have, to plan with what you have is, I love it much more than you seeking what the others people have. والحرفة مع العفة خير من الغنى مع الفجور. And to be poor but to be modest, that's better than to be rich but by committing sins, by violating other people's right. وإياك والاتكال على المنى فإنها بضائع موكى. Imam Ali says, and be aware, O son, be aware, O people, my followers, that reliance on one's wishes can lead you to destruction. Do not rely on wishes, on faraway wishes, because these are the merchandises of the people who are lost, the merchandises of the idiot people. Only idiots build their life upon wishes. And then Imam alayhi salam continues, again, emphasizes again and again. I'm just mentioning some of these points that Imam mentions about being content with material life, just to highlight how much it is from the perspective of Imam, it matters in one's spiritual journey. So Imam alayhi salam says, وَاعْلَمْ يَا بُنَيْ أَنَّ الرِّزْقَ رِزْقَانِ رِزْقٌ تَتْلُبُهُ وَرِزْقٌ يَتْلُبُكَ. Oh, my son, be aware that there are two types of sustenance, rizq. The type that you ask for and the type that it asks for you. The type that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already decided that you are going to get it. And tell them تأته attack. Even if you don't go for it, it comes to you. So as we have in other similar phrases from the Imam and the other hadiths, do not be much concerned about your material gain. As much as you do the normal job, as much as you strive, al-kaddu li'ayalih kal-mujahidu fi sabilillah, as long as you strive to address the material need of your family, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you. This should not be your concern. Just be content with it. Instead, you must be ambitious when it comes to spiritual goals. That's where you have to put your emphasis on. When it comes to material gain, not only you should not be much concerned about getting too much. Even if what you have, try to be generous and share it with the others. And try to remember, if you are getting more than you need, put it to the right usage. وَلَا تَكُنْ خَازِنًا لِغَيْرِكَ. Against, he gives us heads up. Do not be like someone who is just guards a treasure who others are going to benefit from it, not himself. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you more than what you need, why not benefit from it by lending it to the others? وإذا وجدت من أهل الفاقة من يحمل لك ذلك إلى يوم القيامة فيوافيك به غدا حيث تحتاج إليه فاغتنمه. If you find the people, the needy people, poor people, who accept the responsibility to take this burden from you, the wealth that you have more than you need, that's the burden, because you are responsible. You have to answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how did you spend it? So if you find people of need who can carry for you this burden and then give it back to you in the day of judgment when you need it the most, then do it. وحمله إياه وأكثر من تزويده. And if you find that kind of people you can give them as much as you can so they can carry it for you to the hereafter. So it is very Interesting analogy, a metaphor Imam Ali uses here. Then Imam Ali mentions something that goes in line with his discussion about being ambitious, matter of spirituality, being content when it comes to material gain. This advice is like an umbrella, and that's about being moderate. من ترك القصد جار. Whatever you do in your spiritual journey, in your material endeavors, be moderate. Do not push yourself too much. Even when it comes to a spiritual journey, do not push yourself too much that your soul gets beyond your ritual and action. So if you feel, for example, if I recite dua and I see that my soul does not accompany me, I don't have a feeling to it. Just to force myself just to recite certain words that I don't even understand, it doesn't benefit. Pushing one's soul too much can backfire. So that's why we have in one of the pieces of advice that Ali alayhi gives to his son Imam al-Hasan, when Imam al-Hasan was doing too much in worship, in ibadah, in rituals, in praying. Imam says, do not go harsh on yourself, especially in this age. So being moderate when it comes to spiritual practices, when it comes to our endeavor to address our material needs is very important. And moderation can be seen by just looking at the kind of the orf or the common sense, what people see kind of the acceptable effort that I put to address my material need. So many people, they do not see it justifiable if I work 3 different shifts per day, from the early morning to the late night, not living anything for my personal life, for my spiritual growth. And what cements all of these advices, all of this piece of advice, is what Imam Ali highlights about sabr and patience. So there are not, so no one can claim that that his life was always great or always bad, always up or always down. The life of, as the verses of Quran mentions, there are ups and downs in our lives. And Imam alayhi salam highlights the importance of being patient in different difficulties. وَعَوَّدْ نَفْسَكَ التَّصَبُّرَ عَلَى الْمَكْرُوهِ. And teach your soul to be patient on what it does not like, difficulties. وَنِعْمَ الْخُلُقُ التَّصَبُّرُ فِي الْحَقِّ. And to go further, the best of the moral characteristics is to enforce your soul to stick with truth no matter what is the cost. At-tasabbur in Arabic is different than isbir. At-tasabbur means to force yourself to be patient. So for someone who has not yet mastered the moral characteristic of being patient, it might be difficult sometimes to tolerate, sometimes to be patient. Imam says, however, you have to teach yourself to be patient in different difficulties, in different challenges. And اطرح عنك واردات الحموم بعزائم الصبر وحسن اليقين. When you are encountered with so many worries, concerns, Imam says, push them away by having a strong will, by being patient, وحسن اليقين, by reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what can help you. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. This is the same advice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides. When it comes to the challenges, do not let those challenges to make you lose hope. Do not let those challenges to make you make the wrong decision. Instead, stay strong and be patient and rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He would help you survive this challenge, this difficulty. So, finishing my discussion on the pieces of advice that Ali alayhi salam mentioned on the matter of the subject of self-building, the necessity of getting the knowledge as a preliminary step before embarking on a spiritual journey. And then those moral characteristics that we need to embody, having tawakkul, reliance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being moral in our interaction with the others, avoiding practicing injustice, being reminded of the golden rule of morality, being ambitious in a spiritual journey, but in contrast, in the opposite, being content when it comes to material gains, being moderate in whatever we do, being patient. These are what Imam alayhi salam highlights. And I think it adds to these insights. What Imam alayhi salam mentions it can be pertinent to a habit, rather a moral characteristic of knowledge. And this is also very important. And that's the problem that many of us we are facing. It's a flaw, a shortcoming that many of us we have. It's not only related to a spiritual growth, but even in our material life, in our work, our jobs, whatever we do. That's what hinders our efforts. And that's the matter of procrastination, delaying. When we want to do something, the habit to postpone it for tomorrow, for the day after, for the next week, while I'm able to do it now. And Imam alayhi salam highlights the importance of paying attention to this matter by saying, بادر الفرصة قبل أن تكون غصة. Take upon the opportunity that it already had came, the opportunity that already is provided, so that you don't regret it later for letting it go. And then Imam, in another advice, the competitor says, well, وَلَا كُلُّ فُرْصَةٍ تُصَابُ. It's not that every opportunity would be able to get it. So if an opportunity comes around, don't just leave it hoping that you get another opportunity later. And بادر الفرصة قبل أن تكون غصة. So before you regret losing it, if there is an opportunity for spiritual growth, there is an opportunity I can benefit to learn more. I can benefit to enrich my knowledge. This is an opportunity to work on myself. If the opportunity comes around, don't let it go, because there is no guarantee that it will come back later on. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the blessing to be successful in our path to a spiritual growth, in embarking this spiritual journey in the month of Ramadan, while building our journey on the knowledge provided to us by Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, by Ali alayhi salam. Just remembering the pieces of advice that Ali alayhi salam provided, what we need to do in our life when it comes to interaction with the others, when it comes to facing different challenges in our lives, being patient, having tawakkul, so on and so forth. These are the fundamentals of a spiritual journey. And I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the blessing to benefit from and to have the best Ramadan of our life so far when it comes in terms of spiritual growth and success in a spiritual journey, inshallah. Please recite the salawat.